In March 1980, Paul Volcker, the man running America's central bank, sat in front of Congress and effectively told the country he was going to cause a recession on purpose. Unemployment would rise, businesses would close, families would lose their homes, and he was going to do it deliberately because he decided the alternative was worse. He was right, and the logic he used that day still controls the price of almost everything you buy. A one-off price shock is not inflation. When a shipping route closes and oil spikes for a few months, that's a shock. Economists call this transitionary. It passes. Real inflation is when prices rise and stay going up. And for that, you need one of two engines. The first is referred to as demand pull, too much money chasing too few goods. The cleanest example in living memory, in 2021, the US government deposited trillions of dollars directly into people's bank accounts during a pandemic. Now, while factories were shut and supply chains were broken, that money went looking for goods that simply weren't there. Prices ripped. The second engine is cost push. This is when it costs more to make the thing. A loaf of bread, it doesn't change, but the wheat costs more, the diesel truck, it costs more, the worker stacking the shelf costs more, so the price has to rise just to stand still. We saw this exact dynamic in the wheat video we put out as well. When the cost of growing and moving grain climbs, it doesn't stay on the farm, it lands in your kitchen. Now, when we're talking inflation, this part is never specifically said, but you have damn well felt it if you've worked a job ever. Inflation isn't evenly distributed. It picks winners and it picks losers, and the order matters. When new money enters an economy through a stimulus check, a central bank purchase, a rate cut that floods the bank with cheap credit, it doesn't reach everyone at the same time. An Irish-French economist called Richard Cantillon worked this out in 1730. The people who get the new money first, the banks, the asset holders, the government contractors, get to spend it at old prices. By the time the money ripples out to the worker at the end of the chain, prices have already risen. They get their pay rise, sure, but they pay the new price for everything they buy. Inflation is a transfer from the slow to the fast, from the late to the very early, from wage earners to asset holders. This is again the exact same engine we covered out in a previous video, Zoom Out 1, where we looked at rate cuts. Every monetary expansion makes the rich richer faster than it helps anyone else because they're standing closer to the tap. The price tag at the supermarket is the last place inflation shows up. By the time you and I see it, the redistribution, it's already happened. You can actually see inflation coming if you know where to look. And the trick is position in the supply chain. Take sand. Almost nobody buys sand, right? But sand is in the concrete of every apartment, the glass in every windscreen, the silicone in every chip in your phone and laptop. It sits right at the bottom of the economy. So when sand gets more expensive, it pushes up quietly into thousands of products at once. Sand is what we refer to as a driver. Now, you take glass. Glass goes into a building near the end of construction. It's the last thing installed. So glass demand doesn't push prices up. It reveals what was decided months ago. When Chinese glass demand collapsed as the property giant Evergrande imploded, that wasn't causing anything. It was a signal, right? An early warning that a gigantic engine of global demand was switching off. It's the same supply chain, opposite jobs. One pushes prices, the other predicts them. When a thing sits, yeah. So inflation is running. How do you stop it? You raise interest rates. And the chain matters because almost everyone gets it backwards. The central bank, it lifts one number, the cash rate. Banks immediately pass it on to mortgages, business loans, credit cards. A family on a $600 mortgage suddenly has hundreds of dollars less each month. Money that used to go to cafes and clothes now goes straight to the bank. Business, they shelve expansion plans because borrowing suddenly got more expensive. Construction slows across the whole economy. People spend less. And only then, at the very end of the chain, do businesses see softer sales and start cutting staff. Unemployment isn't the goal, it's the last domino. This is what's referred to as the Phillips curve, named after the New Zealand economist A.W. Phillips, who in 1958 spotted an inverse relationship between unemployment and wages. So when unemployment is low, workers have power. They push wages up. Prices, they follow. When unemployment is high, fear sets in. Wages stall, prices cool. To break inflation, you have to break the spiral. And to break the spiral, you have to put people out of work. There's also a cruel timing problem. Milton Friedman called it long and variable lags. A rate hike today might not be fully felt for 12 to 18 months. Central banks are driving by looking in the rearview mirror. They have to inflict the pain before you can see whether. Inflation is tricky politically. Imagine a politician standing on a podium. To fix the economy, we need 5% of you to lose your jobs and the ability to support your families. No elected leader survives that sentence, so an escape hatch in sorts is built. The responsibility for that decision is handed to people who never have to face a public election. That's what central bank independence really is. It's not just about good economics, it's about giving the cruelest necessary decision to someone the public can't vote out. The politicians get to keep their hands clean, the unelected banker takes the blame. But there's a second job the central bank does, and it's the more important one. They sell belief. Money only works because everyone agrees it will hold its value tomorrow. When you wake up, $5 should still be worth $5. You should be able to buy today what you could yesterday. That confidence is the real product the central bank manufactures. The rate decisions, the press conferences, the boring technical language, all of it is in service of one thing: keeping you from panicking about what your money is worth. Lose that belief and the whole system unravels. Look at Argentina, Venezuela's, or Weimar. So if inflation is the enemy of the common man, why not just push prices down? Why not target zero or better, falling prices? Wouldn't that be a gift to every worker in the economy? This is another trap most people don't see coming. Falling prices, deflation, is the thing central banks actually fear more than inflation. And to understand why, run the same self-fulfilling logic in reverse. If you believe prices will fall next month, you wait to buy. So does everyone else. Demand collapses. Again, businesses cut staff, wages fall, people wait even harder. The spiral spins downward. And here's the killer part, right? The American economist Irving Fisher worked this out in 1933, trying to explain why the Great Depression was so devastating. He called it debt deflation. The mortgage on your house doesn't get smaller when prices fall. Neither do your loans. Your wages, they sure drop. Your debt stays the same. But the real weight of those debts gets heavier every single year. Households default, banks fail, the economy doesn't slow down, it implodes. Inflation is a fire. You can put it out by raising rates. Deflation is a flood, and once it starts, even cutting rates to zero often isn't enough to pump it out. Japan has been trying to do that for 30 years. So A little inflation, around 2%, isn't a failure. It is a buffer. It keeps the economy warm enough that one bad recession doesn't tip it into the freezer. This brings us back to Volcker. He raised rates to nearly 20%. Unemployment hit double digits. Farmers drove tractors to Washington and blockaded the building in protest. And he held the line anyway because he believed letting inflation win was worse. He broke it, and every central banker since has lived in his shadow, balancing on the same knife's edge. Too much heat, prices spiral. Too little, debts spiral down. A little inflation, deliberately produced, is the cost of staying in the middle. Next time you hear that rates are going up to fight inflation, translate it. What they're really saying is, we've decided someone has to pay and it won't be us. The only question left is who?